powered by NEI Global Relocation. This is Relocation Leader, the podcast where we help advanced professionals in the world of global mobility. Now, here's your host, Zach Turbis.
Welcome to Blizzard Cast 2026. My name is Zach Turbis, host of Relocation Leader, and today we are snowed in, but Scott Chapman is joining us from sunny Texas, and we're going to have a good discussion on anything mortgage and everything else. Thank you for joining, and you would kind of want to introduce yourself to the people and let them know kind of who you are, what you do, and why PrimeLending is so awesome.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Zach. Appreciate you having me. We are not snowed in here. It's 60 degrees here. It's sunny outside. Sorry about the glare behind me. But yeah, I'm in Dallas, Texas. I'm with PrimeLending. PrimeLending is a mortgage company. I've been with Prime this will be my 20th year. Come from a long family line of mortgage bankers and was kind of born into it. And once it's in your blood, it's always in your blood. But I am the relocation director and vice president at PrimeLending, oversee all things relocation with PrimeLending. And we have the pleasure of working with NEI and several other RMCs. And just really, it's a great niche within the mortgage industry. It's just a different type of borrower and it's a different type of experience. And we love being able to help transferees through that stressful process of moving and take the stress out of that from the mortgage side.
Are people ever surprised when you tell them kind of what you do and they're like, I never realized there's a relocation division inside mortgage in general?
Absolutely. Even my mom, I told her that I was going to a relocation conference, and this was probably 10 years ago, but she's like, are you relocating? I'm like, no, mom. And my dad was in the mortgage business, right? So people don't realize that it is, they just don't think or correlate that many people move across the country for their job, and that it makes sense to have mortgage lenders and other service providers that specialize in helping that group of people, right? It's a good little blend, and having people that specialize in dealing with that makes sense.
There's a reason that there's a whole division devoted to just relocation for mortgage. What makes that so? Why is it, beneficial to have a focus in mortgage just on relocation? Just
understanding relocation benefits, understanding how to deal with the departure residence. A lot of times the departure residence isn't going to be sold. There's going to be a guaranteed backup contract or a guaranteed backup offer, GBO. There's going to be other intricacies and, special fees and discounts that are correlated. So it takes somebody that understands the business just a little bit better and understands that niche of the business to be able to deal with that and make sure that you don't come across any of the issues that can come up. There's a lot of mortgage companies out there, and there's a lot of loan officers out there that I would say are mediocre, that are okay. And that's okay. Mediocre is okay for the status quo. But we're talking about, in many cases, the elite of the elite, right? We're talking about people that the companies are entrusting, and hey, we're going to invest this money, move you across the country, and you're going to help lead a new division or lead my team, the average tenure is 16 and a half years, which is well above industry standard. And it's because one, PrimeLending's fantastic, but because they're so good and because they enjoy working with relocation clients and they understand how important it is to give them the service that they deserve.
What in the market today is affecting relocation buyers?
I would say the main thing right now is affordability, right? It's the main issue out there. Rates, they bounce up and down, but you've got insurance costs that have gone up, that have continued to climb, home prices that have continued to climb. Luckily, there's a lot of proposals in Washington that are focused on affordability because they do understand affordability is the issue, right? Even if rates came down, prices are still so much higher than they were, and homeowners insurance is well above what it used to be. It's still pricing a lot of people out of the market, right? It's hard for a 20-something-year-old to even rent right now, let alone buy. So I would say the main thing is some of these proposals, they're limiting investor competition. They're looking at limiting what some of the larger companies, and that's still to be defined on what these large companies are and what they can buy. They're looking at policies at reducing mortgage rates and mortgage costs, which would be fantastic. They're incentivizing builders and streamlining federal regulations to try to help stimulate that side, right? So there's a lot of moving pieces, but it is reassuring that you hear them talking about affordability as an issue, right? So at least it's on the forefront of their minds. What gets pushed through, you never know, right? There's obstacles, but I do foresee rates coming down, hopefully a little bit. I do, prices seem to be settling down. Insurance prices, I am hearing coming down as well. So, I mean, things are starting to move in the right direction, which is reassuring.
What should companies be thinking about in terms of adjusting policy, or, are there things that they want to keep the same because of things that you foresee?
Sure. Yeah, I would say one thing is, and it kind of sticking along those lines of renters, is looking at offering more home purchase benefits to renters. That's a big segment of their employees, or even looking at revamping what a renter really is, because there's a lot of people in these last couple of years that used to be a homeowner, but they either sold or, they're not a homeowner at this point because they're renting, they got transferred and then they didn't buy at the new location. Well, then technically they're a renter, but they used to be a homeowner. So can we look at that and say, okay, well, they really technically are a homeowner. Should they get homeowner benefits? So, but I do think more benefits for renters, it makes it more sticky, right? You've got more, I think you're going to increase your talent pool, get more people that will accept transfers and assignments. If affordability comes into line, they can be a homeowner as well.
Yeah. Well, just kind of devil's advocate here, if I have a candidate and they're a renter and they're fine being a renter, saves me money, why, why should I pursue that then?
Sure. No, for sure. And it doesn't even have to be a huge homeowner benefit, right? Like if they are a renter and they've never been a homeowner, but give them some type of an incentive to purchase, because odds are they're going to get transferred again, and then you've got that transaction on the back end, right?
Yeah. I mean, the other thing too is like, when people put down roots in an area or when they buy a home, it's could be a retention thing too. When they start seeing that their life is more established, they think harder about leaving for other opportunities. And so, not that you're trying to manipulate anyone, but if you're investing in them, the likelihood that it's reciprocated and they invest in you is higher.
Absolutely. I would say also employer funded buy downs, sliding scales, 2-1 buy downs, discount points. With rates coming down, that may slide out eventually. But transferees, people in general, are very rate conscious. And the more that we can get people buying and moving, I think it helps everybody in general.
One thing that I would say was surprising to me when I got into this industry is seeing how connected all the partners were. Explain a little bit about your relationship with NEI, what the handoffs look like, maybe between you and other partners, and kind of how that process works. And like we said, relocation and mortgage is a bit of a different animal. And I think this is one of those things that makes it unique. And I was wondering if you could explain that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So, obviously I can speak more to the mortgage side of it. We do get along good with all the other partners as well, but it's unique that we all play in the sandbox really nice to each other. Like we'll do training calls together. The preferred partners will do training calls together for the different RMCs. We collaborate, we'll get together and, see how we can offer better service and make sure that we're all kind of aligned. And it's kind of nice. It's refreshing, right? Like, sure, we're competitors, but we're friendly competitors, right? And we know we're not going to undercut, we're not going to take their knees out or anything like that. There's enough business for us all. And bottom line is we want to give NEI the best possible service. And that's the goal. Relocations, it's high stakes, right? You got multi-party, compressed timelines, and the preferred partners help reduce fallout. And that's what I was saying as far as, the intricacies of relocation and mortgage. Where things fall apart is when you have brokers that come in. You have a transferee that, hey, my Uncle Vinny does mortgages on the side and he's going to take care of my mortgage. That's a recipe for a disaster. So, that's when we get the call at the last minute saying, hey, Scott, can you help out? Like they didn't know that I wasn't selling the house, or they didn't take that into consideration. And can you take a look at this? And so it's staying within network. NEI has done y'all have done a lot of research and, dug into your referral partners during the RFP process. It's very, very detailed. Y'all have done the research. The partners need to understand, or the clients and the transferees need to understand. Y'all have done the due diligence. Just trust the partners, not only on the mortgage side, but everywhere. It's take that piece out of it. Trust what we've got. They're going to, we've got your best interest in mind, because we're held accountable by y'all, right? We're not only clients, we're not only working for the customer, we're working for you guys as well. So we've got people that we're accountable all the way across the board. So we want to make sure that we shine all the way across the board. Whereas, somebody that's doing one transaction a year, they don't really care. That's transactional. We're relationship,
Also, I mean, just the volume of problems that we've solved together is pretty staggering.
Yeah.
Anyone who's made some huge life change knows that like hardly ever does it go perfectly right. And when things don't go right, having those established relationships where I can just call Scott up and say, hey, here's what happened. Here's the spot we're up against, and we need to figure something out for this so that it can remain a smooth transition. And like I said, we've done that over and over and over again. And so it just becomes sort of the air we breathe. You take that outside the network and those governance mechanisms are not in place. And so you can lose control of the situation sometimes.
Absolutely.
All right. So I think this is kind of a fun one and I really want to know the answer. So are there any misconceptions about what makes a good mortgage partner? Particularly something that probably flies under the radar.
So one thing I would say is that the lowest rate is not the same as the lowest cost of the total program, right? You have delays, you got fallout, you got escalations. Those are all the expensive part. Like you can't put a cost on a transferee that gets super mad and then escalates it up to their higher ups. And I would also say that speed without verification is fake speed. It creates last minute issues. And it brings up a reel that I've seen where it's a young kid that's interviewing for a job and the guy's looking at the resume and it says you're really fast at math. And he's like, yeah, I am. And he's like, okay, what's 18 times 32? And he says 24. And the guy's like, that's not even close. He's like, but it was fast. So, I mean, do you want accurate or do you want fast? And I mean, honestly, we are fast. And so that's maybe a bad joke for that. But you want quality, right? You don't want the answer that you want the true answer, right? Like, so, I mean, as you said, there's things that come up. There's so many moving parts in a mortgage that there are issues that come up and it's not always the mortgage side. Very rarely is it the mortgage side from our side, but there are things that come up. It's just when you deal with it. And the key is dealing with it immediately and letting the interested parties know. And everybody's okay and understands that things come up. It's just when you bury your head in the sand and hope that it's going to go away and then wait till the last minute when all these other things are going on. You got moving trucks going on and you've got, all these other things moving that you didn't deal with the issue. And then it's like, hey, we've got an issue. Well, when did you know about it? So to me, it's about honesty up front and just doing the right thing. If we do mess up, we pay for it. And that's the right thing to do.
I want you to picture me as a mobility leader, just minding my own business. What would you say is like one maybe quiet shift happening in mortgage that could maybe come back to bite me if I don't pay attention to it?
It goes back again to affordability. And it's if people aren't taking into account insurance costs. The gotchas that I see is when somebody has undershot what the insurance is going to cost. And there's some areas where insurance isn't, you've got very, very limited options. Some areas that aren't insurable at all by certain carriers. So that's a big thing is if you don't get those costs and do that due diligence up front of shopping for insurance, looking at condo fees, looking at the association. Is it an approved condo? Is there issues? Is there litigation going on with the condo? Those are things that, and we have those conversations up front, but those are the issues that come to us from other lenders to where somebody didn't do their due diligence and, hey, can you help you?
So I got kind of a rapid fire round of questions for you.
Okay.
Let's see if you can answer them all in a condensed time frame here.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So what KPIs should mobility leaders track with lending partners?
Escalations would be my number one. If you have multiple escalations, there's an issue. Over last year, I could count my escalations on one hand, and we do a lot of business. Fallout rate, cycle time, how quickly are they turning things? Set milestones, how quickly are appraisals getting ordered? How quickly is the file going to underwriting? Customer satisfaction is huge, right? Like we've got a 97% overall satisfaction company-wide. In relocations, it's at 98%. That's huge. That says a lot. Person is nice, but happy customers is better, right? Like you can, if you have 10 somewhat satisfied customers or 8 really satisfied customers, and then, you throw one nasty one in there, it can change the relationship. Track friction and outcomes, not activity. So I would say the main thing is escalations and satisfaction.
What does relocation ready at pre-approval actually mean?
So verified income, assets, credit reviewed, a clear budget range, the customer actually understanding what they qualify for and what they're going into, and then a documented plan for conditions. So, there may be some conditions that are lagging as far as, transfer of funds or anything, but having that all outlined and the customer understanding that is huge. Now, the beautiful thing is for the verified income and assets and credit, that can all be done electronically. Like, it's not the days of me having to have somebody go into their box in the garage and get their W-2s and their pay stubs, or even emailing to us. Those are gone. We can pull them electronically. And then that just, that streamlines the approval process, and all that can be done during the application process.
Many of our people, they don't know that I asked for quotes from you, and you were able to give me a fair amount of them. And one of the reasons I like quotes so much is it's like, bottled wisdom, little nuggets that you can take with you and really keep with you. And you had some interesting ones. And so the first one I actually want to start with is these are quotes that kind of define you a little bit.
Uh-huh.
What does "I'm your huckleberry" mean to you?
It's one of my favorite lines from the Tombstone movie. It also just means, hey, I'm in your corner. If you want, if I've got your back, right? Like I'm here for you. But
have you ever had to say that in real life, in a real context, and be serious?
I'd have to be leaning against a tree with I think he had maybe a match in his mouth or something. But yeah.
Oh man, the memes that have come from just that little scene,
right?
Tremendous. Cool. Well, okay, the other one. So there's a few other ones I like. So this one really hit me hard. Okay, so you said trust is built in drops and lost in buckets.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's good.
Yeah. Okay.
Explain kind of where that has shown up in your life, and maybe how it applies to people just getting into this industry.
It's one of the first things I learned. The first thing I remember in my first week of the mortgage business was my boss sitting me down and saying, hey, you're going to get calls and you're not going to know the answer. And it is okay to say, that's a really good question. I don't know, but let me find out. Because I was of the mindset, I just got out of college. It's like, I know everything. Of course I didn't, and I still don't. But it is okay to not know everything. Nobody ever expects you to know everything. But if you make something up and you're wrong, you've lost every bit of that respect, right? Like I'm not sure, trust it's not built immediately. You slowly win it, and I'm a man of integrity, and I like everybody to think that I'm a man of my word, but you have to show that, right? So you have to live your life right. You have to lead by example. If you do, if you try to project this thing and then you go out and you're just all sorts of crazy and all that, it kind of disparages what you're trying to portray. So I try to do everything in my life the way that I think that we should do. But you can lose that image really quick just by doing something really stupid. Or doing something wrong, like I said, or just giving an answer that's not right.
If you could be cast in any movie, which movie would you steal the role from? Like if you had to sort of jump in and steal away a prize role from somebody else in a movie that's already been done, what would that be?
Oh, wow.
You can't say Jason Bourne because that's mine,
Wow. I'd like to say Brad Pitt and a river runs through it, but that's not quite. No, man, that's a good question.
We'll pretend that you can, do all your, maybe you can already do this, but let's pretend you're at peak physical condition too. So like, you can do all your stunts. Are you taking Mission Impossible away from Tom Cruise?
Oh, that would be fun. That would be fun.
I'd be out the minute they're like, hey, we just need you to kind of strap yourself on this airplane and just go around and around and around. I'd be like, is there a different stunt we can do?
It would probably be something fishing related, or wow, you stumped me.
It's like, you weren't ready for this.
I was not ready for that. Okay. How about Tombstone? I could be, that would be a fun role, either Kurt Russell's role or Kilmer's role. That would have been fun. Not saying that I am as tough as either one of those guys, but that would have been a fun role, or fun to act that way during that time.
There you go. Well, I think I know what kind of present we need to get you next GPA, like a mustache and a cowboy hat then. Or maybe you should just start growing the mustache and we could just, if it's good enough, we'll kind of dub you with a cowboy hat up here.
Yeah, it has to be a fake
You know,
because I can't grow one.
I asked for your top 3 destinations,
Mhm.
and what would a cowboy like you do in Florence, Italy then? I feel like you'd stand out like a sore thumb, but would you enjoy every minute of it?
Yeah, my wife and I spent our 25th anniversary in there in September. We went to several places in Italy, but Florence, we ate a lot of gelato, ate a lot of croissants, drank espressos, did a lot of walking, and obviously went to a lot of churches and did a lot of sightseeing. So it's beautiful there. There's a lot of history, and it made me wish that I would have done more. I did some historical research, but it really kind of opened my eyes of, wow, like there's a lot of history in Rome and Florence. It is a lot of fun. We'll go back.
I had to just look at pictures. So, like, I mean, I'm familiar with Florence, but not like that familiar. And so when you sent me that, I started looking it up, and I'm like, my jaw was like on the floor. I'm like, man, there's this, and you know what? There's a lot of places out there that you just had no clue existed, and they're probably just jaw dropping,
It really was. I mean, Rome was really neat. There's a lot more history there. Florence has great history, but Rome is so busy that Florence was a nice change of pace. Like, it's still busy, but not as busy as Rome. And you can walk everywhere, and it's romantic. And yeah, Florence is pretty special.
All right, here's the deal. Okay, so let's riff off this here.
Uh-huh.
If you had to recommend people go to only 2 places in Florence, where would they go? And what would you sell to have a house in Florence?
They have to go to the Duomo. The Duomo is this huge church / incredible dome that it's got. I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful. And then you have to go see the David. You have to go to the, what is it called? The something galleries. But yeah, that's where the statue of David is. And it's, everybody's seen pictures of it and seen it in movies, but seeing it in person, and I mean, the size of it is amazing. And then they also have all these other statues Michelangelo did not complete. So you can see like the face just barely coming out of the granite or marble or whatever it is. And it's really neat to see. And like what he said was like that the statues were always in the marble that he was just releasing. So it wasn't, because everybody like, how did you, and it's like, that was always in there. I was just releasing it. And it's pretty neat. And there was the one little aside, there's a statue, I think it's Neptune, but it was so perfect. He went and had to make a chip out of the back of it because he thought it looked too real. Like he went and he had to put a little imperfection in there, which is just kind of crazy. But it is, I mean, it's insane how real, and the details and just the little veins that you can see. And you can see the tendons in certain area. And I kind of geeked out in areas that I didn't think that I was going to, but because I've never been an art guy, but it was really neat to hear some of the stuff and learn about it and just hear the history.
So, like, all right, what's better, the David statue or the guy who taped a banana to a wall in New York?
David, yeah.
I think you could probably draw some pretty good conclusions if you looked at when the iPhone came on to the scene and where our art has went since then,
Right.
What would you give up so that you could live in Florence then? I'm curious. You're like, I just like Texas so much.
No. Well, I have 2 kids in college right now, so I would give up paying for college.
Oh, man.
That would help the affordability.
Such a sacrifice.
Right. Yeah, I would probably give up a car because driving there would be chaotic. And in Florence, you pretty much can walk around everywhere. So affordability is not really that bad there. Like it's, going out to eat's not that expensive. And just the transportation, traveling in the trains I had a little bit of anxiety about that, but it was really fun. It was neat. It was clean. So yeah, we'll definitely go back. I don't know that I would live there, but maybe. I think the big draw that would keep me in the States is if and when we have grandkids, right? That would be hard. That'd be a long commute to see the grandkids.
We've only recently started doing this, but I'm going to let you ask me some questions.
What are mobility leaders most focused on right now? Cost containment, employee experience, speed, compliance, or talent retention?
All right, I feel like I have to qualify my answer here. Okay, so I I'm not the expert. I'm very lucky to work with a ton of experts and a ton of people that share their knowledge with me daily. For me, thinking about this question, it there's like what people think they want and then what they actually like need, you know?
Sure.
And I think that there's a lot of craze around, cost containment, and for good reason. There's market conditions, there's a lot of, pressures that they get from every other department there that push them to consider cost containment. I just don't think they realize how much the employee experience and the talent retention angle factors in on the back end to overall cost containment, you know? So I think that when you're thinking about forking over as much money as it takes to get this perfect candidate into the right position so that you can grow, like you want to make sure that that happens in an efficient way, but in a way that has some staying power. And so I think cost containment probably is number one. I'm sure there's other people that have other reasons that would depart from my thing, but I think that if cost containment is the deal, you should focus on some of those baseline metrics that are just always going to tell you kind of where you stand, but then you shouldn't lose sight of some of the soft cost factors that come into play long term. Like what does productivity look like in 6 months? What does retention look like in a year? Like especially if you hire people that are developing, certain product lines and they're making huge decisions, like I think people like far underestimate the power of what a person situated in a really tight organizational structure, dealing with lots of capital, what they have an influence over. And so it's really hard to quantify all that they bring to the table in terms of, profitability and, if they leave, what does that look like from a soft cost standpoint? But just because it's hard to quantify doesn't mean that there isn't a cost. And so I think that cost containment probably takes the cake there. But I also think that those other factors, employee experience, talent retention, speed, compliance, it's all kind of baked into that as well. So it's kind of hard for me to separate them from each other because I think they are all sort of interdependent.
Yep.
If that's an answer you can accept.
That's absolutely. It was a trick question anyway, because they're all right.
Yeah, exactly.
If you could standardize one thing across all partners tomorrow, what would it be? Timelines, updates, documentation, or issue resolution?
I kind of feel like this is like Kobayashi Maru territory. Like, can I go outside of the box?
You bet.
I would say ambition. I think that like if I could standardize one thing, I know that's kind of cheap because it's like how do you standardize ambition? But I want to be able to look our partners in the eye and say, hey, let's do something crazy here. Let's try and kill it on the value front that no one else can touch what we've built together. I think that like that sort of commitment to, we're going to get together and we're going to talk about ideal scenarios. And as crazy as it sounds to float these scenarios, we're going to then ask the hard questions after that, which is kind of like, what will it take to make this a reality? What are things that we can do today that we would have never been able to even think about doing 10 years ago? And can we do it right now? And so like if I could standardize something, it would be like an ethos similar to that, And then if you gave me a second choice, I would say issue resolution, because there's just so many issues that come up. And if you can at least handle it effectively when it comes up, so whether your clients will appreciate it, it will make the biggest impact. And so I think just for the sake of, caring about our role in the process, I would choose issue resolution.
Good answer.
All right. Well, Scott, I can already hear Ben saying you went overtime again Thank you for that. But I really appreciate having you on. Thank you for doing this and this crazy blizzard that we had, and
My pleasure.
we sure appreciate you. And we thank you so much for coming on again.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate you.
That was another episode of Relocation Leader, Blizzard Cast 2026. And we will see you again in 2 weeks. Make sure you like, share, and just get our name out. Take care.
This has been Relocation Leader, the podcast where we help advanced professionals in the world of global mobility. Listen back here every 2 weeks for a new episode on NEIRelo.com or on your favorite podcast platform. We'll see you next time.